Krishna, illuminating text 12 and text 13 of chapter 12, birth of Emperor Pariksit of first Canto, creation of Srimad Bhagavatam, text 12. Tatah sarva gunodarke sanu kula grahodaye jatne vanshadharah pandora bhuyah panduri vaujasa. Thereupon, when all the good signs of the zodiac gradually evolved, the heir apparent of Pandu, who would be exactly like him in prowess, took birth. Astronomical calculations of stellar influences upon a living being are not suppositions, but are factual as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Every living being is controlled by the laws of nature at every minute, just as a citizen is controlled by the laws of the state. The state laws are grossly observed, but the laws of material nature, being subtle to our gross understanding, cannot be experienced grossly. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 3.9, every action of life produces another reaction, which is binding upon us, and only those who are acting on behalf of Yajna Vishnu are not bound by reactions. Our actions are judged by the higher authorities, the agents of the Lord, and thus we are awarded bodies according to our activities. The law of nature is so subtle that every part of our body is influenced by the respective stars, and a living being obtains his working body to fulfill his terms of imprisonment by the manipulation of such astronomical influence. A man's destiny is therefore ascertained by the birth time constellation of stars, and a factual horoscope is made by a learned astrologer. It is a great science, and misuse of a science does not make it useless. Maharaj Pariksit, or even the personality of Godhead, appear in certain constellations of good stars, and thus the influences exerted upon the body, thus born at an auspicious moment. The most auspicious constellation of stars takes place during the appearance of the Lord in this material world, and it is specifically called Jayanti, a word not to be abused for any other purposes. Maharaj Pariksit was not only a great Kshatriya emperor, but also a great devotee of Lord Krishna. Thus, he cannot take his birth at any inauspicious moment. As a proper place and time is selected to receive a respectable personage, so also to receive such a personality as Maharaj Pariksit, who was especially cared for by the Supreme Lord, a suitable moment is chosen when all good stars assemble together to exert their influence upon the king. Thus he took his birth just to be known as the great hero of Srimad Bhagavatam. This suitable arrangement of astral influences is never a creation of man's will, but is the arrangement of the superior management of the agency of the Supreme Lord. Of course, the arrangement is made according to the good or bad deeds of the living being. Herein lies the importance of pious acts performed by the living being. Only by pious acts can one be allowed to get good wealth, good education, and beautiful features. The sanskaras of the school of Sanatana Dharma, man's eternal engagement, are highly suitable for creating an atmosphere for taking advantage of good stellar influences, and therefore Garbha Dhan Sanskar, or the first seedling, the purificatory process for the higher caste, is the beginning of all pious acts to receive a good, pious, and intelligent class of men in human society. There will be peace and prosperity in the world due to good and sane population only. There is hell and disturbance only because of the unwanted, insane populace addicted to sex indulgence. Text 13. Tasya prita mana raja vipraira dhaumya kripadi bhiha jatakan karayamasa vachayitva cha mangalam. King Yudhishthir, who was very satisfied with the birth of Maharaj Pariksit, had the purificatory process of birth performed. Learned Brahmanas, headed by Dhaumya and Kripa, recited auspicious hymns. There is a need for a good and intelligent class of Brahmanas who are expert in performing the prescribed purificatory processes in the system of Varnashrama Dharma. Unless such purificatory processes are performed, there is no possibility of good population, and in this age of Kali, the population all over the world is of Shudra quality or lower for want of this purificatory process. It is not possible, however, to revive the Vedic process of purification in this age for want of proper facilities and good Brahmanas, but there is the Pancharatrika system also recommended for this age. The Pancharatrika system acts on the Shudra class of men, supposedly the population of the Kali Yuga, and it is the prescribed purificatory process suitable to the age and time. Such a purificatory process is allowed only for spiritual upliftment and not for any other purpose. Spiritual upliftment is Nayana, Sadha, Bhakshanam, etc. during the period of pregnancy, and when the child is born, the first purificatory process is Jata Karma. This was performed duly by Maharaj Yudhishthir with the help of good and learned Brahmanas like Dhaumya, the royal priest, and Kripacharya, who was not only a priest but also a great general. Both these learned and perfect priests, assisted by other good Brahmanas, were employed by Maharaj Yudhishthir to perform the ceremony. Therefore, all the sanskaras, purificatory processes, are not mere formalities or social functions only, but they are all for practical purposes and can be successfully performed by expert Brahmanas like Dhaumya and Kripa. Such Brahmanas are not only rare but also not available in this age, and therefore for the purpose of spiritual upliftment in this fallen age, the Goswamis prefer the purificatory processes under Pancharatrika formulae to the Vedic rites. Kripacharya is the son of the great Rishi Saradaban and was born in the family of Gautam. The birth is said to be accidental. By chance, the great Rishi Saradaban met Janapati, a famous beautiful society girl of heaven, and the Rishi Saradaban discharged semen in two parts. By one part immediately a male child, and by the other part a female child were born as twins. The male child was later on known as Kripa and the female child was known as Kripi. Maharaj Shantanu, while engaged in chase in the jungle, picked up the children and brought them up to the Brahminical status by the proper purificatory process. Kripacharya later became a great general like Dronacharya, and his sister was married to Dronacharya. Kripacharya later on took part in the battle of Kurukshetra and joined the party of Duryodhan. Kripacharya helped kill Abhimanyu, the father of Maharaj Pariksit, but he was still held in esteem by the family of the Pandavas due to his being as great a Brahman as Dronacharya. When the Pandavas were sent to the forest, after being defeated in the gambling game with Duryodhan, Dhritarashtra entrusted the Pandavas to Kripacharya for guidance. After the end of the battle, Kripacharya again became a member of the royal assembly, and he was called during the birth of Maharaj Pariksit for recitation of auspicious Vedic hymns to make the ceremony successful. Maharaj Yudhishthir, while quitting the palace for his great departure to the Himalayas, entrusted Kripacharya with Maharaj Pariksit as his disciple, and he left home satisfied because of Kripacharya's taking charge of Maharaj Pariksit. The great administrators, kings and emperors were always under the guidance of learned Brahmanas like Kripacharya, and thus were able to act properly in the discharge of political responsibilities. Hare Krishna.